So I probably should have made this video when I first bought the car, being as now it's pretty significantly modified. But I thought I'd do it now because I've gotten a lot of questions about what's the difference between the what is called Club Racer or CR version of an S2000 versus the regular S2000. So in 2008, 2009, Honda ended up making 699 of these. Each is numbered. They produced primarily black and Apex Blue, which was a unique color to the CR. They also made white, but white was by far the least produced of the colors. This is a Berlina Black. This is number 241 of 699. So in 2008, 2009, they made the car and made some significant modifications to the traditional S2000, and improved lap times on the Japanese circuit. I forget what the circuit's called, but it produced roughly, or it resulted in roughly 2-second decrease in time on the standard track that they tested S2000s on. So this car it's the same motor, same drivetrain, same transmission, but there's some suspension differences, some lightweight differences, some aero differences. So I thought I'd run through that, explain the difference between this car and the regular car. So the first and probably most obvious difference is the aero, the front splitter, or front spoiler, the chin spoiler, and the rear wing are wind tunnel tested, functional aero differences. Shoot, I never thought I'd have two cars with two giant wings on them, being as I'm not a wing kind of guy. But it's a functional difference. I think it sets this car apart. It grows on you after a little while. So if you're wondering if I bolted a wing on the back of my S2000, I didn't. That's a stock or standard feature. So you have the aero differences. Suspension differences add up to quite a significant difference between this and the regular S2000. The front end specifically is considerably stiffer. Wheels and tires. The wheels are a different design, but the tire sizes are the same. You have the gunmetal gray CR edition wheels that come on the front of the car. I'll insert a picture here so you can see the difference there and see what those look like. Now I have aftermarket wheels on the car. But the biggest difference in the front end was a stiffer sway bar, and I don't think they really quantify that. I'm sure somebody could, in the comments, could look that up and figure that out. But the front dampers were 65% stiffer. The compression rebound they were valved differently, so they were 65% stiffer than stock or the regular S2000. And then the spring rates were stock were 4.75 kilograms per millimeter. They were increased to a 7 kilogram per millimeter stiffer spring. The rear had a different sway bar as well than the regular S2000. I believe it was stiffer. I'm not sure about that, but the springs were different, from a 4.88 kilograms per millimeter to a 6.2 kilograms per millimeter spring. I'm pulling this all from memory of reading through the specs over the years, but that was the significant difference there. And then there were roughly the coilover, or I guess the shock was revalved and was 40% stiffer. So that was the suspension difference. The rear tires were upsized from a 245 to a 255, so a 255 40/17, which are the same size I have on the car all the way around now. They were staggered front to rear. I'm unsure of the offsets of the stock wheels. I think they were plus 65, but regardless, the rear end had a different sized wheel, or I'm sorry, different sized tire in the back of the 255. And at the time, they had put REO 70s, which were an upgraded tire on the car. Today, I have Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2s on my aftermarket wheels. So then the steering was considerably different. So we had a steering rack stiffener combined with a steering ratio change from 14.9 to 13.8 to 1. So they stiffened up the steering ratio, which gave you more feedback, which made it turn a little quicker, which then in turn changed the feel of the car a little bit. Combine that with a rear end or a rear frame brace where the rear in the rear behind the seats where the soft top went, and you have a much different feeling car, different stiffer suspension, different sway bars. This is why people are a lot of times looking for the OE CR parts in order to put on their car, or they bought OE from Honda to change the dynamics of the S2000 right from the factory. So you have a different steering ratio combined with a steering rack stiffener, and you end up with a different steering feel, which of course I've retained on the car. Even though I have an aftermarket front sway bar and aftermarket coilovers, you retain the different CR steering feel on this car. Exterior wise, you have matte black badges, and we have also on the side of the car we have a clear side marker, which a lot of people change to. That came stock. So the H badges, the Honda badges, you also have the CR badge that comes on the side of the car. So we had those matte black that changed the look. The other option on the CR was you could do an AC and radio delete. This car doesn't have that. In fact, very few actually chose that option. I think it was less than 50. Don't hold me to that, but I think there were less than 50 of the 699 cars produced actually had the delete, the AC and radio delete. So if you took that package, the car it reduced the overall weight of the car by 100 pounds, because they also got rid of the spare. That was standard, so there's no spare in this car. It came with a little tool kit instead, with a little pump. Instead of having the spare tire, you had just the tool kit. You also had the removal of the soft top, so this car doesn't have the retractable soft top that all S2000s have. They removed that, the hardware, the motor assembly, and so if you had the radio and AC delete package combined with the lack of soft top, it was not an option to add it back in on the CR. This car doesn't have it, none of them have it. So you ended up 100 pounds lighter. My car on the scales weighed 2,845 pounds. With a full tank of gas, so I have now an aftermarket radio, but I had factory radio, factory speakers, and factory AC on my car. But it was an option that you could have chosen over the regular S2000, which you couldn't choose that. So those are the main exterior differences. Again, the Aero, the suspension, the sway bars, the steering rack. Internally in the car, we have a different interior. The main difference in transmission was a slightly less or shorter gear ratios. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. A shifter ratio, not gear ratio. So they didn't change the gearing in the car. They just changed the distance that the carbon synchros needed to travel by. They reduced that by 6%, and then they reduced the height mainly by countersinking the CR ball, the CR shift knob. So it's 12.6 millimeters shorter. So the combined slightly shorter throw with a shorter or a lower sitting knob made you feel you had a little more feedback. So you had a 10% increase in feel. I guess that's what Honda quantified it in their press release back in the day. So yeah, that's the only difference in the transmission. With the internals, the motor internals, all of that's the same. Another performance difference was the exhaust. The tips were powder-coated black, and it had a U-shaped internal design, which at higher RPMs was a little bit louder, a little different feel. It wasn't valved, but it is a little different stock exhaust. I think there's also less baffling. Lots of rumors about no sound deadening in the car. I don't think the S2000 really have much sound deadening anyway, so I don't think that was a significant difference in it. I haven't torn apart the interior to find out. And then we have the interior looks very different. It's funny how I've got yellow in both of my cars now, and I'm not a big fan of yellow, especially on the interior. But we have what's supposed to look like a carbon Kevlar. It's called Alcantara and Tommy Gun, or I'm sorry, not Tommy Gun, Tomcat. I think, is the fabric and what it's labeled as, or what it's titled as. So the inserts, the foam inserts, are also stiffer. So they put more and a little bit stiffer foam in the seats to hopefully hold you in place a little more. Now, me being 6'2", 240, I'm kind of squeezing outside the bolsters anyway, so I don't know how much of a difference that makes, but it's a fabric / Alcantara design instead of all leather like the regular S2000. The floor mats have the yellow S2000 insert. The gauges have on the tachometer has yellow inside of it. Instead of white, it's a yellow border. You have the yellow stitching on the leather steering wheel, yellow stitching on the leather shift boot, which is different, and then we have Alcantara door panels combined with yellow stitching there. So a difference over the stock S2000. Another major difference is it comes standard with the aluminum hardtop. It's the same OE hardtop as the rest of Honda, so it's, you don't notice any difference there. And then behind the rear seat is all open because there's no soft top in there, so it's a big open enclosure. You'll see my amplifier sitting there, which obviously isn't stock. I have a JL amplifier in there, but that's another noticeable difference between a regular S2000 and this, and there's a brace that runs across, like I mentioned earlier. So anyway, those are the differences between a Honda Club Racer or a 2008 Honda CR and a stock or regular S2000. I'll be having a full modification video coming out here shortly. That video will be quite a bit longer because the list of differences of what I've done to my blasphemed and torn apart my CR is significant. The supercharger and all kinds of suspension changes. So anyway, thanks for watching this. We'll see what happens with me in this car. I've been talking about possibly selling it. I finally have it done. The only thing I really have to do is tweak the audio system, and I think I'm pretty much done with the car. I may put a unit in R3 in it. Right now I have a Passport Max, an old Passport Max on a blend mount, so I may put a different radar detector in it. But other than that, the car is done. I've done all the modifications that I've ever dreamt of doing. So anyway, stay tuned for that video and more S2000 content. I'll be doing lots of driving stuff here coming up with it. Thanks for watching. Because what happens when the force pulls you back, your foot naturally comes off the gas. You have to keep your foot to the floor, foot to the floor.
Dialed in.